Love yourself where you are and love yourself not to stay where you are. Do the work because I'm telling you, there is hope. Your past doesn't have to equal your future unless you choose it to be. Right now, everybody listening, you literally, the beautiful gift of life is every day is another chance to get it right. Every day is another chance to pivot. Every day is another chance to pivot this way or that way, whatever that is. Life can shift right now and never be the same in the best possible way because you could build a new relationship with yourself through love, and you could build a new relationship with life by recognizing that there's more for you. But all it is that one decision on the other side of that fear, that if you just did the work, your whole life would shift.
Guys, help me welcome, seriously, one of the best men on the planet and my good friend, Henry Ammar. Dude, what's going on, man?
Oh, man, I'm so glad to be here with you. I don't think you know, man. I don't know if you've said this in your intro, but we got a chance to connect. And I showed up at a dinner and there was one seat next to you. And I knew for some reason, I was like, I know I'm supposed to sit there for some reason. We ended up getting into like a deep conversation. I was like, this is a
Dude,
cool...
it set the entire room for the rest of the speaker dinner. We held church in the restaurants.
Dude, I just gotta say, we had a group of speakers in that room. Steven gets up and just starts sharing his heart. And everybody, the whole room elevates, the whole spirit lifted and set the tone, man. You're a leader, and I loved watching you do your thing, man. It was awesome.
Bro,
awesome.
Dude, thank you so much. You know, it was sincerely such an honor, one, to help my sister, Amberly Lago, with her first ever event, the Unstoppable Success Summit, which obviously you spoke at. She invited me to speak at, Ken Joslin and Justin Schneck and all these different amazing people. Like, we had an absolutely amazing time. What I think is interesting is people don't fully understand. I'm going to share this, and hopefully Amberly won't get mad at me. But the night before the event, Amberly had all kinds of adversity thrown at her. Her husband was in the hospital and all this kind of stuff, so she barely makes it to the event. A bunch of back-end stuff and websites that you and I know about automations and how this stuff's supposed to work and whatever. It breaks down, right? Planes start getting delayed, right? And Amberly's like, oh my God. I said, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So we have this entire it's funny. I told Amberly, I said, Amberly, we always have to pivot till it becomes possible. And she ended up using that like the next day or whatever. I was like, we just have to keep going. I'm telling you, something good is going to come out of this. I'm just telling you. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I'm just telling you, when you have this much junk thrown at you, something amazing is going to explode. And sure enough, it's funny. We go through the speaker run through that we do with all the speakers the night before we head to dinner. We like, the conference monitor's over here. Here's your clicker. Here's your headset. Here's our production team, blah, blah, blah. And we go through all that. And I'm the last one to get to dinner. Everybody has to leave because I'm still walking speakers through their stuff. Right. And so I sit down and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden this bright white light sits down to my left-hand side. I mean, seriously, I don't know so I would say that I have some spiritual gifting, right? So I can see things that maybe some other people can't see, like see visually, whatever.
That's some gifts, man. Sure.
Yeah. And then I can feel certain things, right? So I sit down and sit down right beside this big, bright white light. And then I just feel this overwhelming sense of acceptance, love, and joy. And this guy with, I would call it white hair because I'm colorblind. So it's white/gold/yellow/ whatever color that is, right? Big old smile, says, hi, I'm Henry. Hi, I'm Henry. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. And then the next day, day one was that, like, we had production glitches after production. I was like, what is going on? Our stuff is tight. Like, what is going on? I'm frustrated with my team and stuff, whatever. And of course my team's gonna be mad at me. I didn't say that, but I'll just call it like it is. Speak from my heart, right?
Yeah.
Day two, we're about to start the day. And you say, no, everybody come over here. And we all huddled up and you led us through a prayer. And I want you to know, after that prayer, it felt like something lifted. And day two was phenomenal. Amberly has got some of the most amazing feedback on her event. And I kept telling her, I'm telling you right now, just give it a moment. Right? Yeah. And well, I was joking around before we hopped on air about just calling this just hit send, right? So we just picked up the phone and hit send to Jesus. Hey, dude, something's not right. What's going on? So right. I want to know more about your journey. Like, how did you, because you are a bright white light. You were super successful in the music industry, super successful podcast, super successful entrepreneur, but more importantly, you're a super successful human being. Like, how did you get there? Because most people don't have the level of humility that I sense every time I get around you.
Thanks, man. First of all, thank you so much for your words. And it was an incredible event.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I would be curious to ask you about. We don't have to do it now, but like sometimes when you're doing the right thing or doing what you know you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
things don't look the way you think they're going to look. And sometimes there's more resistance than doing the quote unquote easy thing, which ends up being the lesser thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that whole event was a lesson in and of itself. And the whole idea of just hitting send, like I love the fact that like, I'll just share my observation of a principle that I learned watching you and Amberly was there was a sense of no matter what comes our way, I can't control that, but I can control how I show up for it.
Yeah.
And I love that, man. It was so cool. And to see the leadership that came, because Amber's a leader, you're a leader. You had some amazing people on your team and just people coming in. And no matter what happened, it was like, cool, what are we doing? Solving problems, figuring things out. At the end of the day, nobody cared a second about glitches because people cared more about the transformation and the experiences that they had in that room. That wouldn't have happened had you given up any earlier.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation the other day, and I know it's diverting a little bit from your question, but it was like, you think about like Disney, right? Walt Disney went bankrupt. People said he had no imagination. Glitch after glitch.
Walt Disney, no imagination. Anyway, sorry.
Right, it's crazy. Yeah. You have the guy from Starbucks, 254 banks reject him, saying, who's going to pay $5 for coffee? Right? You have like, over and over and over again, you have these people, you're like, Mr. Beast, he has over 100 million subscribers. He put out 1,000 videos before he went viral. How many people would stop after 10?
Yeah.
After 100?
Yeah.
After 500 is crazy.
Yeah.
But he set his eyes on something, and it was cool to watch you, watch Amberly, watch people with a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm here for this reason, and we're going to make sure this happens no matter what it looks like. Yeah. Even if we're, doing cartwheels and no microphones, but obviously there were microphones and I don't think anyone did a cartwheel.
Yeah. Actually, I think someone did do a cartwheel, come to think of it. I think it was one of Amberly's mastermind folks.
Did they really?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
It's just cool, man. It's just, what a principle of like, keep on going, right? And when you're scared to do it, when you're not sure how it's going to be, just go, just hit send, just freaking go for it, make the call, do the thing, get in the room. Yeah. And I'm telling you, for that event, how many friends that I've had and how many people, like we've just been on podcast runs with each other, you know, which is cool. And so what a gift it is to have someone be persevering and resilient. And of course, Amber, message is resilience is just having that. But I didn't answer your question about, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about life and people and growth and helping people. And, my background is I was like the most insecure person to me, of course, that I knew back in the day. I was so caught up in fear of what people thought about me, fear of failing, fear of like success even, and not wanting to say something because I didn't want to offend anybody. So I created this little cage around myself, and I hated it. Freedom is such a big value to me. And I want to feel free on the inside, just to be everything that I was created to be, everything that God has made me to be. But I every time I tried to move forward, I would feel this like pull, like like resistance pulling on my chest. And I was like, man, I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel free. I want to feel confident. I want to feel worthy of love. I want to feel worthy of success. I want to feel worthy of, and so I went on this journey, and someone put a book in front of me, and I got obsessed with human behavior. And at the same time, I was in a boy band back in the day, right? Like the blonde hair. Right?
I didn't get a chance to see the dance moves. Come on now.
Oh man, they're out there somewhere. So, and it was interesting because I went on this journey of like, no, like I will not. I want to choose my life. I want to live my life. I don't want to live as a puppet, worrying what people think about me. I don't want to live like a puppet, knowing I'm made for more, but I'm living less.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to live my life. I want to unleash everything that I'm meant to be. I want to have the relationship, the life, the success, the wealth, the health, everything that I can do that's within my reach, and even stretch that. And so I went on this crazy journey, man, for like literally the last 26 years of human behavior, understanding what are fears, what is the nervous system. I'm a hyper nerd, and I can nerd out big time about trauma and performance and the scientific aspect of like the nervous system of why fear shows up or what to do and how to do that. But the reality is, when we understand how we operate, we can become the programmer, not the program.
Ooh.
You know, and so for me, it's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm done being the program with all my past belief systems, all the things I know I'm made for more.
Yeah.
And you better believe I'm going to understand how to understand the next level of fear. What's my next level? What's my next level? Because new level, new devil, right? And when I could learn the principles of breakthrough, the principles of breaking free, the principles of healing, of empowering, of confidence, of reprogramming my subconscious mind into the identity, the belief systems, the values, the behaviors. My past doesn't have to equal my future unless I choose it to be.
Yeah.
It's my life, and I was done living my life based off of external things. I want to live my life based off of what I know I'm supposed to give the world. Yeah. And that's been the most beautiful thing. And ever since I tasted that, I was like, oh man, I had to share it with people. Started sharing it with people, and I started seeing breakthroughs all over. And it has been my life's mission. Like, I love witnessing people break free and live, create more goodness. Because I'll end on this little run on this. Stephen, I feel with my heart, with every part of my heart, that it's time. It's time for the people that want to lead with love, that want to lead with light, that want difference. We need to make love louder, light louder. We need to fear less and love more. We need people to step into who they are, because we need them. The world needs them. Our kids need them. Future needs them. But a lot of the people that are so good are caged with the fear of people that have opinions, or caged with this insecurity, or what if I fail? But it's time to break free and go from the fear to the freedom, the fear to the love. So we can embody everything that we were made to be, not only just for us, but for our families, for our loved ones, for the world, because no one's going to win when you play small.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I was just thinking, I was just so many thoughts going through my head because I knew this was going to happen. Like, I'm ready to go like 10 different directions at once.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple things. So first of all, this essence of I guess this essence of fear. And I would say the common denominator in fear has more to do with the fear of living inauthentically. I feel like every fear is coming from that. I'm not living an authentic life. So you and I were talking about this before we hopped on air. So I'm a vulnerable guy. I'll go ahead and share this, right?
I love it.
Unfortunately, my wife and I are getting a divorce. Now, it's happening immediately in love. If anyone has to get divorced, it should happen in this way, meaning love, grace, mercy, no harm, no foul, like nobody's whatever. And that decision didn't come down because of a moral failure. The decision didn't come down because, we didn't love each other. The decision came down to, we are not living authentically. My authentic trajectory is going this direction. Her trajectory is going that direction. And of course, I can already hear my and I love you, by the way, my Bible friends, like, no, like trying to beat me up already, but like, suck it up, buttercup, because there's still continual love that's present in that moment. And it came down to that authenticity. I've also discovered that not everybody wants to, at least from a desire perspective, wants to have that true level of freedom. Some people are just happy where they're at. So, but I also shared, I think that's the same dinner. I think in fact it was one of the things that catalyst. I think I stood up and told everybody there was a movement coming.
Yep.
There's a movement coming, and I sense it in every fiber of my being. I feel like it's one of the things that God is preparing me for, preparing you for, preparing a lot of our friends for, that there's a movement coming where it's not about how much money you make. It's not about all the success you've had. It's about, can you legitimately help that person, not for your benefit, but for their benefit, Yep. And I felt like Unstoppable Success Summit with Amberly was just that, right? We had world-class thought leaders take the stage, but those same world-class thought leaders were having conversations in the auditorium, having conversations in the cafe, having conversations in the breezeway area, right? Everybody that took the stage genuinely wanted to make a major impact, right? And you, my friend, I feel like you were a major there were lots of sparks. You were the accelerant.
Oh man.
So what we were all doing our best to fire at that different adversity like this, right? And then because of your light of love, the way in which you operate, and right, guys, I'm telling you right now, Henry's not faking Henry. Henry is Henry. He's Henry. He's Henry at dinner. He's Henry on stage. He's Henry on the podcast. He's just Henry, right? And it's light, love, and transparency is like at the core of your being. But I'm excited to be part of this movement with you, right? I really do think that. The other thing I want to mention as part of some of the things you said is like there has to those that search find, right? So you said, okay, well, what's missing? What's confusing? Where am I at? All this, and you went on that research. Now, you did a lot of research. You were like neurolinguistics, like da 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 da. Now, would you recommend that people go that broad, or would you have them start with a singular source?
Man, great question. Great question. And thank you for your kind words. I followed what I needed at the moment for myself, right? Like what I thought I needed and what I saw working in people. I got curious with a lot of people. I said, I wanted to be confident. Who do I know that's really confident? Can I pick their brain because they're doing something? They might not consciously know it, but they're doing something, right?
Yeah.
I learned about the subconscious mind, and I was like, you know what? Let me go. And I dove into a training. I went all in. I asked a lot of questions, did a lot of research. I even volunteered so I'm going to give you like my journey and why it happened the way it did. Like I would look at, for example, Tony Robbins, and I would say, he's obviously having an impact. He's making a difference. So I went to his events and then also volunteered for his events. And I was a coach for his Global Youth Leadership Summit. And I was like, let me watch what's going on. And so I had a notebook for breakthroughs I was having and a notebook for what I liked that they were doing that worked, that was impactful, right? And so throughout my whole life, I was just really curious. And I'll share two things. One is everybody's fear shows up a little differently.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? So through my opportunity and blessing to serve people across the world, I've literally come up with there was a list of like 67 different types of fear that I just saw were common. I would just list them. I was like, oh, that one I've seen in multiple people, right? Whether it's fear of failure, fear of rejection, worried what other people think about you, envy, shame, relationship depolarization, bullying, racism, division, right? Playing small, inauthenticity, like we said, right? There's a reason why we're inauthentic. If we're living that way, that means we feel safer not being who we are. We're afraid to be who we are, right?
Yeah.
And so, like fear of actually succeeding. Some people are afraid to succeed. What does that mean for my family? Like I remember for me, I'll just give you one example. For me is I had this conversation with my wife the other day. I said, are you ready for what's going to come when my brand tips over?
Which is like happening as we speak.
Oh man, thanks. I'm so grateful for what God is doing, what's unfolding. I just want to serve, man. Yeah. I know you're the same way, Stephen. And I told her, are we ready for it? Do we understand the implications of what comes up on social media? You have people that have keyboard confidence, people that may not agree with certain people that might be like, oh, well, Henry's this, or they might do something, go out. My wife is starting her brand and that's growing. And I'm like, are we ready for success?
Yeah.
Are you ready for, if it does,
I would call it impact at scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a story where I heard, Alex Hormozy was talking to Dean Graziosi, and he's like, Dean was telling me, Dean's like, dude, I get death threats, people trying to climb my fences. I could do this. He goes, but if that's the cost of making an impact, my wife and I are willing to do that. And, being in a boy band and understanding music and understanding, even wanting authentic relationships. Like I'll give you one example. When I first started my podcast, I was asking everybody to be on it. Hey, would you be on my podcast? Hey, no, everywhere. And I was like, wow. And these are people, and some of the people like I've been there with and for. Like, that's cool. Like, I guess that's fine. I respect your time. And then all of a sudden, months later, my podcast hits #1 in training at the time and #4 or something in education on Apple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of a sudden that day I get 365 text messages. Hey, Henry, like, do you remember?
How you doing, buddy? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like, whoa, I also need to know who my people are.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all this like fear of success that I used to have, right? And as I work through it, I'm able to break through it. Fear is also showing, this is a story on fear that would resonate with a lot of people, I think. I used to always hit a capstone in how much money I made, right? And every time I'd get to a certain point, I would sabotage. Self-sabotage is a fear, right? It's a fear response, procrastination, whatever. And I did the inner work and I did the processes that I've learned. And I realized that I valued love over money. And I used to have a belief that if I made money, I would lose the relationship with my sister.
Ooh.
So what did I do when I was about to make a certain amount of money?
Sabotage that joker.
Nope. New project. Yep. New project. Not going to ask for that. Not going to ask to be paid for this. Not going to ask for what I deserve. And I just kept going under the radar until I worked through it. Stephen, when I worked through it for the first time, I worked through that fear and realized that wasn't my nervous system didn't have to like be afraid of that because it was a subconscious thing. It wasn't a conscious thing. I knew my system would be great. The second I broke through was the first year I broke 6 figures.
Jeez, man.
And so we don't understand how deep these fears are embedded in us that when we try to move forward in them, it's like, oh, come back. And so we feel it, whether you want to call it resistance or these beliefs that limit us, right? But there are true things that we can do to go in and heal them. And I think it's important for us to understand, how can I lovingly identify my fears? You can't beat yourself up into healing. And then how do I become free and embody everything I was meant to be?
You know? Bro, just for the record, you're dropping a lot of nuggets that you're just flying through. So the whole like work through it to break through it, like what you just said, like I'm telling you, like everybody that's watching and listening right now, I want you to go back and re-listen to this particular episode a few times. And you might want to slow, everybody tells you like, hey, go 2x speed. I'm like, this is one you probably need to make it where he's like, sound like this, right? No seriousness. No, I love that so much. In fact, I jotted a couple of notes down. One of the things you told me at that dinner was this massive breakthrough that happened in an environment that it wasn't supposed to happen in because you did it scared, right? You were about to step on stage and either play for or speak to like 35,000 plus or this massive audience. And it's almost like we call him God, call him Holy Spirit. Other people might call him source or whatever, which is totally cool. We love you regardless. But that urging gave you a direct, I want you to do this. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of doing it scared, because I feel like doing it scared is really what creates that environment that you just talked about with your sister, that breakthrough. Like you had to step out on faith and do it scared. Even if it didn't make conscious or subconscious sense, you still did it. So first of all, share that story, because I think it's a powerful story of what happened. And 2, break it down for me on why it's important to do things scared.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question. And so this is going to be another like deep dive thing, but I think
it's all right. We're going to slow it down for everybody just for fun.
It's going to
you just do you.
Yeah, thanks. It'll resonate because this is a story. I'll use a metaphor and then I'll tie it back in. Imagine a child, right? And they're ready to jump. You're trying to get them to jump into the water, and you go in and you're like, no, just go. And you push them in there, and then they fall in and they have this trauma around it. Or you have a child where you can go stand next to them and hold their hand and say, listen, I'm here. I got you. I'm going in with you. And I know you're scared, but I got you. And I know in the past, maybe this is what you've seen or experienced. You've heard these stories, but I'm here with you and I'm going to walk you through it. Fear is like an inner child that's screaming, right? And I'm not a big fan of emotional override where I'm like, just suck it up, Henry, and forget it and just go. That's part of it. Empowering yourself to take action, aligned action, right? And it's being compassionate with the part of me that is afraid, right? It's looking at myself and saying, Henry, fear is your body trying to keep you safe. So I'm not pissed at myself for having fear. I'm not mad at myself for having fear. Thank you, body, for trying to keep me safe. Even though you've played out every possible scenario that could go wrong when I'm talking to these 40,000+ people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out there. They're going to laugh at me. It's a music festival and I'm speaking to them.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing that, I had to lovingly accept myself where I was and I can't, when we stash away our emotions and push
Mm-hmm.
them down and push them down and push them down, they're going to surface.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What I wanted to do is give myself a newer emotional experience that's very present.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do it, I can reprogram my nervous system to do that. Granted, whenever you do anything new, you will feel fear. If you don't feel fear, fear means you're moving in the right direction most of the time.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you weren't afraid, you'd already be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't uncomfortable with it, you would already be doing it. So you will experience fear. It's how do you navigate it? So for me, when I was about to go speak on stage and I was sitting there and there's a video of me literally, like someone videoed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Henry, if I go on default mode, if I just go on autopilot, my mind is not made to help me to thrive and to win. My mind's number one directive is to keep me safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I go on autopilot, is it going to think of all the great things that are going to happen or all the worst things that are going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Worst things.
Yeah.
I sat there and I realized my imagination was running rampant. Like, you're going to go out there. What are you going to say? What are you going to, all the worst case scenario. So I had to regulate my emotions. I took a deep breath. I caught hold of my thoughts. I felt my body and I said, hey, I know you're afraid. And just like that little boy that I told you about, this is a nerdy thing, but if you look at groups like IFS or like parts work or internal family systems therapy, or a lot of stuff like that in terms of trauma, a lot of the belief systems we carry happen when we're younger. If you speak up, then people won't like you. If people don't like you, you're going to be alone. If you're alone, then you're going to be miserable. All these thought processes. So what I do at that moment, I'm like, hey, Henry, like, and I control the narrative. I got you. I got this. We're here. I have my support system. I have my people. So I don't just have to do it scared. I do it intentionally scared. I do it with support system. I do it with intention. I do it not overriding and discounting my emotions, because every emotion is a messenger, not a dictator.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I just don't do anything because I'm afraid, then my emotions become my dictator. But here's the beautiful part about fear and about emotion is any emotion can lead you to more freedom. Any emotion can lead you to more healing. But we're afraid of the emotion.
Yeah.
We don't make friends with it. And it's not about overriding your emotions. It's about mastering your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude, I love talking to you. I do. So I jotted this down while you were sharing, because it triggered something in me. So, all right. So I just shared, to the entire audience that I'm going through a difficult season at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And it could be a lot more difficult than it is. And it's
100%.
not, because it's full of love and grace and mercy, which is just a beautiful thing in and of itself. However, I went and took my son, we had to tell the kids, obviously, unfortunately, the kids are adults. They're biologically my wife's, where they're mine through, I guess, through emotional adoption. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my oldest son, he says, I would really like to have dinner with you. I'm like, okay, cool. And I drove out to where he was at. We went and had dinner. And then, he was sharing with me his thoughts on the whole situation. And, he's actually saying very nice things about both of us, very proud of us both for number one, loving each other the way we did love each other and how intentional that was, loving them the way we loved them and how intentional that was. And then he said, so he goes, but I do want to share something with you. I'm like, okay, all right, share away. He goes, if there's one thing of all, because you said, you're a great provider. We know that you love us. We know that you support us. We know that you're here if we need to pick up the phone and talk to you. We know all these different things. He said, if there's one thing that you need to take into your future, this is my 22-year-old son, right? He goes, there's one thing you take into your future he says, Stephen, you have to work on being present when you're present. And I was like, oh. And literally in that moment, I was thinking through all of these different Rolodexes where, they're trying to talk to me and I'm trying to finish my, I come home I had a very stressful day because, obviously I own multiple businesses currently, and I try to do everything with excellence, right? So I get home, I think I'm done for the day. I walk through the door. I try to put my phone on do not disturb, turn it upside down or whatever, but my computer goes ding, right? And of course, I'm an ADHD person, so I'm like, oh, noise. Let's go see what that was, right? And then, and then it's about something else that deflates, maybe what could have been a good day or whatever. Anyway, long story short is more times than not, my own family tried to connect with me at moments that my connection was broken. And it wasn't intentional. So one of the things I was talking to my life coach about, I got a good friend of mine, it's a life coach. He's over in Palm Springs, about is like, here's my trick. I don't currently know how to break that mechanism because my behavior pattern for the last 25 years is it's all on my shoulders. If it's to be, it's up to me. And I know better. I know that at any point in time, God can take everything or give me more. It's completely whatever his frequency wants. Right. So I instinctively know all these things, but in the moment I could honestly say, if I walked through the door today and I had something on my mind, that I would be able to shut it off and engage, And the reason I say that is because you just got to talk about the importance of emotion. Right. And emotions, I think, are neutral. Right. They can be used. They're like a brick, right? They can build stuff or they can break stuff. Right.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm realizing as I've been maturing, as I've been vibrating at a higher level, as I've been stepping hopefully more into my authentic nature for my future. And I've kind of been doing all this internal work. Some would call it shadow work. Some would call it it's a bunch of different terms. It just means you're working on you. Right. But as I was doing all that, I've learned this one thing, and I know this is long winded, but I wanted to kind of give some background.
I love it.
The one thing that I'm trying to figure out, or one thing I've discovered, is the emotions or the subconscious nature of the emotions that cause us problems tend to continue to resurface until you actually deal with them.
100%.
Right. So break that down, because that was one thing that I kind of got from your presentation during the Unstoppable Success Summit, is making people more aware of the things they need to be aware of.
Yep. 100,000,000%. I love that you said that. It sparked a thought. So I'll answer your last question. I'll share my thought that you inspired. Emotions, we could use our emotions, or our emotions could use us.
Ooh, yeah.
But this phrase came to me and it said, you're going to keep dealing with something until you deal with it and get real with it. It's going to keep coming up. Right. And it's almost our body doing us a favor. Can you resolve this? Can you resolve this? And one of the modalities I studied, they say one of the prime directives of the subconscious mind, one of the main reasons for the subconscious mind, first is to keep you safe. Right. Then it stores all emotions that have been unresolved. And this is the best part. It presents them when they're ready for resolution. So if something comes up to me, I'm like, shoot, my body's ready to resolve this. We don't want to store emotion in our body. It's not healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever.
Yeah.
And to be aware of it, most of us only let ourselves hear enough truth about what it is to feel uncomfortable, but not the full truth to become free.
Ow, and yes.
And so it's like, yeah, I know I got to do this, but we don't let ourselves feel it fully. But why not? We're afraid to feel big. Most people are big feelers. If you hold emotion in, it's because you're really scared if it comes out. What does that mean? Right. And the interesting thing with fears and with, I say, these things that you're talking about, for example, wanting to stay connected, right? Like my phone rings right now, like my lights are turning on. I have to turn my phone upside down while we're on this podcast, because instinctively I'm like, oh, is someone reaching out about this? Oh, is this person reaching out about this? Because I have some big projects. And my mind is always like, okay, got to do this, got to do this. But I had to tell myself something, Stephen, and I said, fear is almost like faith in the wrong thing. And when you have faith in, you start to manifest.
Say that one more time. I thought that was deep. Do it again.
Yeah. So fear is faith in the wrong thing. And what you have faith in begins to unfold. And I'll give you an example. I'll share it from a logical, a spiritual, and a nerdy perspective. Okay. All of which
are totally my vibe, by the way. Yeah. All of which.
I know that. That's why we talked so long. It was awesome. Imagine walking into a room and you're really scared. You feel like you don't belong in the room. You're really scared of what people think about you. You assume the worst. There's this whole insecurity that runs your thing, like, oh shoot, oh shoot. And there's an energy you give off. So when I come in the room and all of a sudden imagine people walk in and they all look at me. They all look at me. They're like, oh, Henry's here. And I'm like, oh, they're wondering why I'm here. Maybe I shouldn't be here. You know, oh man, what are they thinking? Like, how do I look? Are they looking at my hair? Like, who is this guy? Why is he wearing a hat that says lion on it? Is that like, is he thinking lion, or is that about Jesus? Or he believes in Jesus? Like, whatever that is, right? And so what's going to end up happening to me energetically is I'm probably going to lower my energy, shut down, turn inward, because fear makes you turn into self-preservation. I'm thinking about myself.
Yeah.
And because I was scared that they didn't think I belonged in that room. Now, do you think when I'm in that state, am I going to have more connection or less connection with those people?
You're absolutely going to have less connection.
Less. Yeah. And it's going to prove the model that, oh, people don't really want me here because, oh, they didn't really connect with me. Oh, the fact they didn't connect with me. And then it's a cycle. Fear is a negative cycle this way. Whereas if I walked in and I had a belief like God put me in this room, I'm here to do something. I'm here to serve somebody. Who am I here to serve? I got this. Those people look at me. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, look at me, I'm like, oh man. Or if I'm confident, they must like my wondering what might happen. Let me go share the message. I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Even if they're a little weird, I'm not in self-preservation mode, because I'm in a faithful state of abundance and, okay, I'm here for a reason. I'm in this space for a reason. God's got me in this room for a reason, whatever you believe in, right? For a reason. And then I go in and I am who I am and I'm who I'm supposed to be, sharing love and light, because it's hard to have fear and love at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so if I walked in with that love, you know, if I feared less and loved more, am I going to have more connection, less connection, more? And so I perpetuate that direction.
Yeah.
So logically, you know, a lot of people are afraid to let people in because they've been hurt before. So we let people in just enough, but we're afraid to get hurt, but we also don't want to be alone. And so we also are afraid to be alone, but that fear of letting people in is, you know, it's a cycle. And so, but faith and fear, I don't know what's happening in the future. They're both imagined futures for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
And so how do I deliberately be a co-creator of my life or a creator of my life and be intentional? Because if I'm telling you, if you go on default here, if you're listening and you're on autopilot every day, you are living in the lower frequency. It takes intention. It takes diligence to move forward. It takes diligence to raise your frequency, because autopilot is fear for the most part,
Yeah.
Right. Or what's the lowest thing that's going to keep you connected? And so from a spiritual perspective, and I mean, there's all types of people, and I'm going to just quote, you know, a scripture in case anybody does. And if you don't, just take the principle.
Our audience is spiritually inclined, so they know that light, love prevail. So 100%,
and that's really it. It's like, if you really think about it, like love is the ultimate, no matter what religion you go to, where you go. When they ask Jesus, what's the greatest thing? It's to love God, love others as yourself. We have a problem with people not loving themselves, people not loving others, you know, and not being connected to divine. But why don't we love other people? It's because when we're in fear, it's hard to be preserving yourself and love.
Well, it's also hard to love someone else if you don't love yourself.
100%.
You can't even receive it.
It's hard.
And I say that because I went through this situation where a lot of times, you know, a lot of the guys that I've worked with, a lot of the people that I've worked with, in truth, that have had difficult parental challenges, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for them to relate to a creator, if you will, that loves them, because they've never seen the embodiment of love inside of other people.
100%.
Therefore, they put their value based on what they think others think of them, rather than having their value based on what they want to become of themselves, and then tied to the creator.
100%, man. 100%. And that's where, like, a lot of the healing work that I'm obsessed over, healing traumas, healing stuff. Because, you know, like, my parents loved me the best that they could, but my dad escaped a war 2 years before I was born, right?
Yeah.
Part of my understanding of masculinity was tacos being thrown across the room and glass being broken, right? Like,
ouch.
That's like, But when I understood that, I was so afraid to step into my masculinity for so long because I thought it was destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So that kept me from being a safe place for my partner.
Yeah.
Because I was so afraid to step into leadership because the only leadership I knew from a male was like back and forth.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was stable. And I know my dad was doing the best that he could. He lived a really tough life. And I could have compassion and I could understand that. And back to loving yourself, love is the healer. And when you study, even in like some of the modalities that I think are the most transformative, you can't beat yourself up into healing. You can't, reject yourself to love yourself.
Yeah.
You have to first accept yourself. And my main point is, if you really want to heal and you really want to evolve, it takes a deep sense of looking inward and saying, what part of myself don't I like, and how can I learn to love it?
Ooh. Oh, dude, that's such a good question. I got spidey tingles, dude.
I go off on these tangents, and I know I
no,
say like,
no. I mean, this is why you and I hang, right? This is, people are getting an inside glimpse about like some of our brief conversations we had during the event. Wow, gosh. All right, so let's. All right, so you've heard me say before on stage that I believe that principles govern promises.
Yeah.
If there are going to be principles to outweigh the negative that's going to lead us to the promise, what would the principle be to love ourselves at a nature in which is true and authentic and allows us to step into our future?
I love that question. Dr. Stephen Porges says there are no such thing as bad behaviors, only adaptive ones. And what he means is everything we do in our lives, every action that we take, we believe is either going to keep us safe or keep us connected. Right? For example, some people feel, maybe they grew up in an environment that they had to preserve everything themselves to survive. I'll give you a specific example. Right? There was a girl that couldn't stop working. Nothing, she couldn't stop. Like everything had to be quote unquote perfect for her, and she couldn't stop going at all. And she came to me. We did a process, and she said, Henry, no matter what I do, even if I succeed, I never feel like it's enough. I feel like I'm a failure. And she was like a VP at a bank, incredible mother, all these things. And I'm sitting there like, but it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you feel about what you do. Back to the feelings. We did a process. We went back to the first time she'd felt that way. And this may be, we could dive into processes and stuff. I'm a big nerd about like subconscious processes. She went back to the first time she felt that way. And it was her dad, when she was younger, grabbed her by the arm and moved her because she failed and said, man, you failed me. And so the first thing she did was she said, oh my gosh, I can't fail or else I'll lose the love of my caretaker and my provider and the safety that I have. Safety and connection. She was going to lose it.
Yeah.
Right. And so her whole life, she lived her life saying, I can't fail. I can't fail. I can't fail. I can't fail. But Stephen, if I told you, don't think of a purple tree, what did you just think of?
Well, I'm colorblind, so a blue purple tree.
A blue purple tree. Yeah. That's awesome. That was awesome. Never had that answer. That was awesome. And so her whole life, she's walking around looking for failure, not to fail. Don't fail. Don't fail. Don't fail. She lived a whole life of this standard that was really hard for her to reach because it was never enough. She was never enough. What she did. But just to understand, that happened when she was younger. Her body adapted to it. So if anybody's living in a behavior that's constant, if you keep sabotaging, procrastinating, I work with a guy who procrastinates, he, no matter what, he's like, I can't finish things. My body, like, I just feel like I keep stopping. And he just was beating himself up over it. I asked him this question, and we did this process where he realized, well, he believed that if he did something, he would fail. And if he fails, he's not good enough. He's not good enough. He's going to be alone and doesn't deserve to live because that's what he grew up with.
Wow.
So I told him, I said, let me ask you a question. If you associate failing with losing connection from the people that you love, you're going to fight not to fail at all. And even if that means you never start.
Yeah.
So how do you give yourself, what's the principle? It's, you got to give yourself grace to know that everything you're doing now is what your body believes it's going to keep you safe or connected, even if it doesn't make sense.
Dude, that's good. That's so good. I was
Even
just
if it,
thinking one of the programs that my life coach and I it's good because I've learned to do some more subconscious work, which has obviously changed my conscious reactions, which has been cool. But one of the ones that came up was when I went to go build my first business. My father tried to talk me out of it. He told me it was going to be a train wreck. Now I realized he had a business that failed, and he was trying to save me from pain. And for that I love him for. My destiny ended up working out differently, but I said this on stage. One of the things he used to say is Scoggins don't get ahead, they get by, which I have now proved is a lie. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. It just did.
I like it.
But in doing so, after that, within like the first 3 or 5 years, I started making a little money, started becoming a little more successful. He started seeing that I had a bit more of a surplus. He and other members of my family and friends immediately started coming to me and like, well, family helps family. Right. And I didn't realize it until my life coach. And this is like, I'm 22, 23 years old when I'm starting this company, maybe 27 or 8 before I started making, good money. And now that it's, is what it is now, it's interesting because I'm 47 years old as I stand here and talk to you right now. Okay. It wasn't until 4 months ago that my life coach is like, dude, you're operating on a responsibility program. You think it's your responsibility to protect everybody and save everybody and help everybody, because like in a lot of business negotiation, stuff like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, all right, how's this going to affect my team? Not realizing that, your team may or may not give a crap about the owner or the business itself. They're like, there's a lot of work that has to go in to have that kind of culture as bought in. And I started doing something tangibly that has made it easier to let go of the responsibility program. And when we were doing the subconscious work, he's like, goes back to neurolinguistics. Like, what is a physical response that you can choose to do a subconscious overcome or a change. And so now it is if someone tries to tell me it's my responsibility to solve their problem, donate their money or whatever, I literally go, it's not my responsibility. And I know it sounds cheesy as hell, but it works. Like a few months of just, it's not my responsibility. And and that allowed me to start saying no to the people I should say no to, and allow me to start saying yes to the people I should say yes to, because now I have the bandwidth to do so.
Right. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's so much of the subconscious work that's got to be like more to the forefront, and which is why I love talking to you, dude. I told you we would be chasing squirrels this entire episode.
I love it. I'm here for it. This is like,
yeah. So
we did this for hours, and I know we can continue probably for more. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, absolutely. Well, let me ask you one final question, and then I'll let you go from Unstoppable when we figure out what the next show holds for us. But now that you've done the inside work, and your heart's desire is to help people do the inside work to get the outside value, what is the number one thing you want all people to take action on today?
That's a really, really good question. I would just say it's a two-part one action. It's give yourself grace, love yourself where you are, and love yourself not to stay where you are.
Yeah.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Love yourself where you are and love yourself not to stay where you are. Do the work, because I'm telling you, there is hope. Like we said, your past doesn't have to equal your future unless you choose it to be. Right now, everybody listening, you literally, the beautiful gift of life is every day is another chance to get it right. Every day is another chance to pivot. Every day is another chance to pivot this way or that way, whatever that is. Right now, you hearing this episode, if you've stuck out to this point, you're a freaking bomb, because that just shows how much you care, and it's a demonstration of love that you have for yourself, because pouring into yourself through a podcast like this is a demonstration of self-love.
Yeah.
But right now, you could be thinking, you know what? I'm going to go invest in this coaching program. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to go do the work. I'm going to go do this thing, whatever that is for you. Life can shift right now and never be the same in the best possible way, because you could build a new relationship with yourself through love, and you could build a new relationship with life by recognizing that there's more for you.
Mm.
But all it is that one decision on the other side of that fear, that if you just did the work, your whole life would shift.
Yeah, dude. No, it's so good. All right. So I got a follow-up question because I can't help myself.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to figure out how people can connect with you and learn about a big project you're working on. All right. Okay. So let's say I've stuck around this entire time. I've realized that I'm vibing, I'm vibrating at our level. I'm hungry for the change. I'm hungry for the challenge. I realize that I'm not where I want to be. I'm beginning to awaken that I could be a lot more than I am now. I have a hunger and a desire to be different, to step into whatever my destiny is, right? I'm willing to overcome the fear. I'm willing to do it scared. I'm willing to do the work. How can we help them understand what the first step, like the first step of the work, right? I would say it's surrender, but I'm curious to know what you would say. Like because again, it's like, all right, I got all this amazing information. I'm vibing, like I'm hungry, like I'm in it, like I feel it, like I'm here, right? But then we hang up this call and they're like, dude, that was freaking amazing. What do I do?
Yeah. That's a great question. I am so not about just inspiration, like transformative experiences are the key. I love that surrender. Surrender is a really good one. To me, the first step of everything is a true, honest, loving self-awareness, a compassionate curiosity, as Gabor says about.
So like
yourself.
taking inventory without playing guilt and.
Yeah. What's working, what's not working in your life, not only focusing on what's not working, but what's really working. Right. And then to me, finding people that have already done the things that are not working for you to go either learn from them, who's a master at it. For me, it's building a system, a surround system to help you succeed. What content what are you looking at? What are you doing? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What are you investing your time, energy, and money into? Take a step. And I think it'd be safe to say, first of all, get support, man. There's such a big thing, and even in neuroscience called co-regulation, right? Cues of safety with somebody else, where you're with somebody, you're not doing it. So many of us are lone rangers. Bishop T.D. Jakes said, if your goal can be accomplished by yourself, it's not big enough, right? And so I really believe wherever we want to go, that's a totally different conversation. But A, get a support system. B, take the next simple step. Doesn't have to be a big one. C, get routines going, morning and evening routines. Start doing those things that feed life into you. And then the last one is find someone that understands the nervous system, the mind, the heart, the body, the spirit. How do you heal from the past? How do you master your emotions? How do you reprogram your subconscious mind? Go study those things, because here's the thing. When you learn how you operate, then you get to become the programmer. And remember, and I think above all, sorry, this is it. This is the one. You have to decide to be the decider of your life. You have to choose. No more autopilot.
Yeah.
There's not a day that goes by that you don't decide what you're doing that day and why you're doing it.
Yeah. Dude,
that isn't
so good.
moving in the direction.
That's so good. And by the way, audience, for those who are listening and watching, if you're not sure who to follow to do the very things, you like, go follow these people, go find these people. I know a guy who wears a lion hat that you should totally be following. And he's got a program that he launched, or he was like, let the audience in on during the Unstoppable Success Summit. And we're over time. I don't care. I want you to talk about the program, because I want people to engage with you, because you are fast becoming not only a good, we're basically beyond the friend stage. We're now brotherhood stage, but not only outside of that between the two of us, but someone I consider a ping pong mentor, someone I can hopefully pour into and also receive from. I learn so much when I work with you and talk to you, and we go deep. So I want to encourage the audience to follow you on pretty much every methodology possible. But for the time being, go ahead and talk to us a little bit about one of the programs that you've been launching.
Yeah, man, I'm in the process of creating, because I asked myself the question. I was like, man, to be honest, I want to create what I've always wanted. I want to create, I want people to understand, how do you heal from your past, those belief systems? How do you reprogram your subconscious mind? How do you empower yourself in this moment to real emotional mastery and confidence? And so I'm actually building out a program as we speak right now. I'm doing an event. I don't know when this is going to come out. I'm doing an event on May 20th. And I think I'm going to be doing an event once a month until I release this program, because I just want to serve. So if you go on my page, Henry Ammar, at Henry Ammar, you'll see, anything that I'm creating. But I just really want to serve. And Stephen, I know you're the same way, man. I'm really grateful to know you. So grateful to know you. So grateful to have witnessed your heart behind the scenes, because I got to see you behind the scenes. I got to see you when you were stressed. I got to see you when a lot was going on, and you learn a lot about somebody when they're stressed. You know what I mean? And yet you always wanted to add value. You always wanted to make sure everyone was taken care of. You always wanted to make sure that you were doing the right thing based on your word. And I just wanted to say that publicly to everybody listening, that I got a chance to witness you on your podcast. I just want people to know that who you're listening to, I got a chance to witness. And if you know me, I don't fluff. I'm not here to fluff I'm not here to BS anybody. I'm here to speak truth and love. And of course, my wife said the other day, she's like, "Did you just say that?" Because I said, "Trust me, I just won't say anything." But Stephen, I appreciated watching you. I appreciated your faith. And I appreciated your continual curiosity, at the same time while you lead. And so that was really, really cool. I just want to commend you publicly on your podcast about that. And regarding my stuff, man, I'd love to serve anybody that wants it. My social media is going through a revamp, which I'm really excited about. And just want to add more value, man. It's exciting,
Yeah, dude. And by the way, if you guys want to see him do his keynote speech and stuff that he did at Unstoppable Success Summit, he has the footage. So let's just see where he posted at. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Right. I will post that. Thank you. I'm redoing my YouTube stuff too, which I'm really excited about. And that'll be one of the first things I put up, because that was such a cool event. The footage was amazing. And I just feel really great. That speech, I know we're over on time, but I just want to encourage everybody to, this might be a good lesson, is the night before I had a really strong feeling of like, no, that's not what you're supposed to say. And I had a really interesting experience right before I got on stage. Stephen, I had a few slides up and I asked you the night before, "Hey, is it okay if I switch it up?" Because I kept feeling like I needed to change it. And I just put up a few slides, and not like I had before. And I was about to go on stage and my mind was empty. And as you talk about surrender, and I remember just saying a little prayer, and this is intuition, prayer, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Right. I said, "Man, I feel like I have nothing to say to start out with." The feeling that I had was I emptied my thoughts out so I could fill myself with God's thoughts, or the divine thoughts, or whatever's supposed to come. And that was an act of faith of just stepping out there, wanting to add value for Amberly, for you guys, for trusting me to be on that stage. But there's something really beautiful happens when you surrender, when you listen to that little voice inside of you, and then you act on that little voice inside of you. You just continue that little process day in and day out. And I'm telling you, you'll find yourself in places you never thought you'd be.
Bro, no, I totally agree with you. It's the mustard seed approach, right? It's crazy that you say that, because I had for the keynote that I did, I think I had 32 slides. I deleted all but 4 of them. And everything that I did on stage was completely just like,
it was so good.
This is what people need to hear. And I always, one of the things that in my little internal box when I'm praying before I go on, and the night before, is like, "Lord, what do they need to hear? Not what do I want to say, but what do they need to hear?" And I know that the feedback, because obviously I've been getting the surveys back from Amberly's event, because we obviously survey everybody at the end of the event to figure out what happened. And a lot of the feedback comes down to the people the speakers that got the most applause is not the right word, but the most recognition, I guess, were the speakers that I happen to know for a fact deleted most of their stuff and went out and talked from the heart. I mean, I think it goes to show that there is a movement. It's coming. It's on us. It's happening right now, which is people want real, they want relatable, and they want truth.
Yeah, brother.
And any thought leader that's willing to put themselves in that category is going to be incredibly successful, not just from an impact category, because I've learned that if you serve well, you're also rewarded equally well. And then it becomes, okay, well, how can I serve more and give more? How can I serve more and give more? Serve, give, serve, give, serve, give. And that's a really fun freaking place to be.
Yeah.
It is so fun to be in that zone, but you can't get to that zone until you start doing it scared, getting rid of the emotional trauma, like really working on the subconscious, like I don't know, dude. I love you so much. I mean, you are definitely a brother from another mother. And yeah. Audience, I know it was long. I can't help myself. You got to see why I got to have it. Like, this is like, this is the guy, right?
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. If you're still here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, man. Well, everybody go follow Henry. Enough said. Love you, brother. And we'll see you in the next one.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I hope you liked that video. And if you did, make sure you check out this next video right here.
The smartest, most successful people on the planet have written and published a book. I call it a $15 mentor. For $15 and a handful of hours, you can read
Yeah.
best information from the smartest people on the planet.